Good evening and hello, Saints fans. Welcome into another edition of Saints Now by Chat Sports. My name is Trace Girouard. Thank you so much for tuning in to another show. I wanted to hop on the mic and just discuss this report coming in from Ian Rappaport around Kellen Moore because he's going to be interviewing for the Saints head coaching job in person. And actually, New Orleans, they're actually going to be flying out to Kellen Moore in Philadelphia. So that's a pretty cool indication there that they're very, very interested in hiring Kellen Moore to be the next head coach. So really quick, before we even get this off the ground, I want to gauge your interest. Are you even interested in Kellen Moore? Just give me a yes or a no in the comment section. Share your thoughts. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say. And without further ado, let's talk about it. So Ian Rappaport, he's putting up this report. I'm going to have it up on screen for you today. The Eagles are on to the next Super Bowl. The Saints head coach search now will accelerate, and I think that that's a very key factor here. I think you should expect a hire to happen soon, and I think that you can expect it to be one of three people. I think it's going to be Kellen Moore, I think it's going to be Mike McCarthy, or I think it's going to be Darren Rizzi. And I think all three of those candidates individually have very, very strong candidacies. Now, another key detail here. Like I mentioned, the Saints are going to be flying out to Kellen Moore. This will be the second meeting with Kellen Moore and the Saints, but this will actually be the first time they've met in person. So they've checked the boxes with the Rooney Rule. Opinions around the Rooney Rule, they are various and they are all over the place, but for the sake of the argument, yes, they have fulfilled the Rooney Rule, so they can go ahead and hire their head coach. Now, there is a note that I want to make here. No deal can become official between Kellen Moore and the New Orleans Saints until after the Super Bowl. But the Saints if you notice with the Saints, they're also pursuing Mike McCarthy, and they're also pursuing Darren Rizzi. So if they hold off on hiring one of those two guys, then you could expect the Saints to possibly go the route of Kellen Moore. And that would indicate that they're very, very interested in Kellen Moore. If, in the next week, we don't see the Saints have a hire or have a new head coach, then I take that as they're not interested in waiting or not, they are interested in waiting. They're not interested in rushing, and they're not interested in going and getting Mike McCarthy, which I thought was their entire plan. I mean, earlier today, I put out an entire video that discussed why I'm upset that the Saints missed out on Joe Brady. And I think a lot of the reasons that I was upset that you were going to miss out on, I think you actually get that with Kellen Moore, but with more experience. I mean, he was the quarterback coach in Dallas in 2018 and very quickly was promoted to the offensive coordinator role in 2019, and he served that role through the 2022 season. And then in 2023, he was a very, very hot candidate as a head coaching name and as a young offensive mind. He was very, very praised. So, let's not sit here and pretend that a few years ago Kellen Moore wasn't a hot commodity. He wasn't a name that a lot of people were interested in. But then obviously he went over to the Chargers and served as the offensive coordinator under Brandon Staley, and that did not go well. That was a one and done. Did not go well whatsoever. But then he took his talents back to the NFC East, and he has been the Philadelphia Eagles offensive coordinator who, for the record, are playing for the Super Bowl, in case you missed it, in case you're living under a rock, or in case you just missed that detail that I mentioned a few minutes ago. Just got to give a lot of credit to the Eagles offense. They've been incredible. And I want to make one thing very clear here. The Eagles offense, in terms of the roster, is much more talented than the New Orleans Saints. I mean, they have arguably the best offensive line in football, and it's not particularly close in my personal opinion. But overall, the Eagles finished 8th in total yards. They were 7th in points. They were 2nd in rushing yards. And that's honestly like an asterisk. They would have finished first, but they benched all of their starters in week 18 because they already locked in the playoff seed. But worth noting, they had a league low in passing attempts. So what does that mean to you? I'm curious. I want you to share that in the comment section. And I also want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel. I mentioned it earlier. I'm actually going to be headed out to New Orleans to do some coverage for the Super Bowl for Chat Sports here. We'll be doing all sorts of fun stuff. I'm going to be on Radio Row. I'm going to be doing interviews with people. I'm going to try and get interviews with players, trying to get interviews with coaches and media personalities. And I'm also going to be trying to get interviews and talk with y'all, not just people that are doing stuff doing this kind of stuff professionally, whether it's talking sports or playing sports. I also want to talk to fans. So if you guys are out there, look for me. I'll be the Saints fan that's running around and probably looks pretty tired because we're going to be grinding all week. But I want to encourage you to subscribe. A lot of changes coming to this team. A lot of things are going to be changing, and a lot of things are going to be moving quickly. So if you want to be updated, you want to know what's going on, I can't encourage you to subscribe enough. And, really quick, want to give a shout out to today's presenting sponsor. That is going to be Game Time. Game Time is an incredible ticketing app. You guys have to check them out, and you got to check out the new feature. It's Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play so much easier. And honestly, I'm a guy who doesn't like to waste a lot of time. I like to procrastinate, but I don't like to waste time, thinking about how I'm going to spend my money. And, Game Time Picks is a really good feature for somebody like me because I don't want to sit there for an hour searching through tickets and be like, I don't know which ones I like, which ones I don't like. But, Game Time Picks, they filter out the fluff for you to make it easier for you to find those tickets. They also have a lot of really great features like all-in pricing, seat views in the app. It's really, really crazy. You get to, just pull up your phone and, kind of move it left to right, up and down, see exactly what your view would be. It's really great. So I highly encourage you to check it out. Download the Game Time app. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Use code CHATSPORTS to get $20 off your first purchase. I will remind you, terms and conditions apply, but use code CHATSPORTS. You'll get $20 off your first purchase. And I know Burt Kreischer's coming to New Orleans. Jazz Fest, the lineup just got released, so you can get tickets to those events. You can also get tickets to the Super Bowl. If you want to go to the game, $20 off. I know it doesn't seem like it's that much when you get an expensive ticket, but hey, can't hate that at the end of the day. Saving money is saving money. So download the app. Game Time, use code CHATSPORTS, terms apply, $20 off your first purchase, last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Shout out to Game Time. Now, let's get back on track here. I hope you guys stuck through the ad break here and the sub read because this is some really interesting information. I want to talk about the NFC Championship specifically. We saw the Eagles, let's call a spade here. They absolutely dismantled the Commanders. I mean, it was not pretty for the Commanders. Jalen Hurts looked good. Saquon Barkley was unbelievable. Marshawn Lattimore got in a fight with A.J. Brown, so it looks like he has his new Mike Evans, which is, great to see. By the way, Saints won the trade. He has not looked that great in the very limited snaps that he's taken for Washington since being traded for at the deadline. Anyway, the Eagles offense had a grand total of 459 yards. They scored 55 points in the NFC Championship game. That's unbelievable. And again, I understand that a lot of that has to do with the talent, but who's managing it? Who's dealing with it? Who's scheming plays up to appeal to it and to play into the strengths that roster has? I mean, Kellen Moore is nothing short of an offensive guru. Let's not get it twisted here. I mean, even dating back to his time at Dallas, the Cowboys offense was really, really good. And if you remember, under Mike McCarthy, one of the other candidates for the Saints, he had 3 straight 12-win seasons. I'm just saying, one of those is under Kellen Moore. That's good. He's a good offensive mind. And on top of that, one thing that I really like about him is that he's a player turned coach. And he's young. Kellen Moore was a legend at Boise State when he was the quarterback. I mean, he's 36 years old, guys. That is so young. And if you can make something happen here and you can hire him and he can be a good fit and things can go well for a long time, I mean, You got him for the foreseeable future. He's so young. And at Boise State, he was the quarterback for the Broncos from 2007 to 2011. Listen to this. Career stats. He only had one season under 3,500 passing yards for the record. 69.8 completion percentage. 14,667 yards. 142 touchdowns. 28 touchdowns. And a grand total of 276.7 yards per game. He was a two-time quarterback of the year, two-time first team All-American. He was a two-time WAC, shout out to the WAC, RIP that conference, two-time WAC offensive player of the year. He was the WAC freshman of the year in 2008. Two-time first team All-WAC. Like, this guy was an unbelievably talented football player. He was so good. Very short career as a player, went undrafted. That's fine. I don't really care about that. But what I do care about is somebody who has a high football IQ. I care about somebody who can lead men. I care about somebody who can create a culture. And I care about somebody that can right the wrongs. Because quite frankly, there's been a lot of wrongs with the New Orleans Saints recently. And, this isn't a roster discussion. This is a talk about the coaches. Like, this offense, no matter what's going to look different. Clint Kubiak, guess what? He just got hired by the Seattle Seahawks to be their offensive coordinator, which I think is a good hire for the record. I think Kubiak did the best he could with a shitty hand, quite frankly. A lot of injuries. I mean, those first 2 weeks, they were a historically good offense. You can argue, you can laugh. Historically, the teams that have had those types of starts have won Super Bowls. So, that's a good gig for him. I think that's a really good gig for Kubiak. Dennis Allen, fun fact, just got hired as the Bears defensive coordinator. So I think that's a good fit with him and Ben Johnson. I do like that, actually. All that being said, I really think the Saints should go for Kellen Moore kind of in an all-out blitz here. I like the idea of Dan Rizzi. I like the idea of Mike McCarthy, but I don't want to focus on those guys. I want to focus on Kellen Moore, the subject at hand here. I mean, I think the fact that they are going to him is very, very, very loud. I think that speaks volumes. And I think that the fact that the Saints haven't conducted their interview with Mike McCarthy says something. Granted, the weather, it was a problem. Last week with all the snow in New Orleans, 10 inches is unbelievable. I think Kellen Moore not only would add a spark offensively to the playbook, I think he could be a good mind to help build the offensive roster, and I think he could be a good mind to cater to the unique skill sets of Taysom Hill and Alvin Kamara as their careers start to get towards the end. I'm not saying it's at the end. I think they both had phenomenal years, a career high of rushing yards for Alvin Kamara for the record. But, they are on – Father Time is going to inevitably start knocking on the door. And I think Kellen Moore's a good guy to have utilize those skills at the end of their careers. I also think it would add a spark and it would revitalize the fan base. Excuse me. Throat's getting really dry here. I think it would revamp the fan base. I think it would get people excited because, quite frankly, I don't think Mike McCarthy really gets anybody jazzed. I think Darren Rizzi is one that people can like because he's familiar and we did get to see some success. I mean, he had 3 of the 5 wins. He was the head coach for 3 of the 5 wins. He was not responsible for 7 straight games losing. He broke that streak. Believe it or not, he actually kept the Saints in the hunt of the playoffs much longer than any of us anticipated. So, I think to give the spark, it's Kellen Moore or Darren Rizzi. I think the safe hire is definitely Mike McCarthy. But I think that the hire that the Saints should make ultimately, since you missed out on Joe Brady, you missed out on Mike Vrabel, you couldn't get Ben Johnson, you couldn't get Aaron Glenn, I think Kellen Moore is a damn good option. And I think that we shouldn't, as Saints fans, write that idea off because of one crappy year with the Chargers. I really like the idea of hiring Kellen Moore. I want to hear what you guys think in the comment section. He coached up a hell of a game in the NFC Championship game. They have been stellar in the playoffs, in my opinion, the Eagles. And to be totally honest, that team looks pretty much unbeatable. So, yeah, I'd like a little bit of that. I would like a little bit of that in New Orleans because, quite frankly, I think that that's a team that's lacking culture, and I think it's a team that's lacking confidence and swagger. And I think that with the mindset and the youth that Kellen Moore can bring to the Saints, you got to change something, and I think that might be the change to make. Saints fans, I appreciate you guys for hanging out and watching tonight's video. If you want to check out more content, I highly encourage you to check out the recommended videos here coming up in the end screen. But Saints fans, y'all stay golden. We got another couple of videos coming at you on Monday, live show Wednesday. We're going to be doing all sorts of updates. So a reminder to subscribe to the channel. Hit the thumbs up icon if you made it to the end of the video. And don't forget to comment, share your thoughts because I love interacting with you guys. So y'all stay golden, Who Dat Nation. We'll see you later.